Hey guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about sourcing good healthy meat. So if meat is a part of your routine diet, it is super important that we talk about what food labels mean that are on meat so that we're not getting tripped up by just words, and that we also understand how important it is to know where our meat comes from and how it was raised and what it was fed, because that directly impacts its impact on us and our health. So I still live in a rural area with rolling green fields and cows out there grazing, living a life like they've always were put on earth to live, right? But if we look at today's modern food lots, that is not the way things are anymore. Most animals are not humanely raised, not in the way that they were meant to be. And just like people thrive off of their home environment and how they are nurtured, animals are very similar to that. If they are being raised under harsh circumstances, it definitely impacts the meat that you're going to consume. Plus, in those circumstances, they're given tons of medications, antibiotics, hormones, steroids, all kinds of things, chemicals that are absorbed directly into that meat to help keep them from being sick and dying before they make it to the slaughterhouse. So it's just super important that we talk about this subject. I just want to talk to you about the labels. I got on the USDA to see what requirements there are for food labeling when it comes to meat. And so this is something you can definitely access yourself if you have an interest there. Of course, I always thought about grass-fed. That's a big buzzword. Honestly, it doesn't mean a whole lot on a package. You can put an animal in a pasture for a very limited amount of time and say they were grass-fed because they were grass-fed at some point in their life. We also say grass-fed, grass-finished, and that's fine too. That indicates something a little stronger to me, but in reality, they still could have been given grains, and it speaks nothing of the medications that animal was given. So I think this was eye-opening for some terms that I often reach for to have security that animal was raised well for my consumption. And then the truth is, it doesn't mean a whole lot because it doesn't address all the things that are important to me. I will tell you that grass-fed meats taste different, and that's better. So it's important that we figure out how to make sure that the meat we are consuming has been really grass-fed, not grain-finished, not fed grains in between a certain amount of time, but truly grass-fed meats so that they are the healthiest that they can be for us. All right, so there are many terms used on food labels that really mean absolutely nothing. And I just addressed the grass-fed, grass-finished. Humanely raised. We'll see that a lot. Now, there are third-party groups that go in and inspect and make sure this is being carried out. But if that certification is not also on the package, this means very little. There's no official definition to say what this means, to say that these are the restrictions, and the USDA is not verifying this. So if this is on a label without a third party that is confirming this, then it means really nothing. So just this terminology means little. So your third parties is where the certification comes in. So if it says certified, then it means one of these third parties have come in, and there's 3 big ones that you can look for. Animal welfare approved. That's one of the certifications. GAP 1 through 5 plus, something like that. That's also a certification. And then if this says certified humanely raised, it was verified by a third party. So you've got to be careful not to get drawn in by just the label unless you know what it really means. So those are really important. No hormones, no steroids. Okay, that sounds good. I'm looking at that. I don't want things treated with hormones and steroids because I feel like that is kind of detrimental to my health in a way. What does that really mean? First of all, cattle is about the only thing that label means anything about because they're actually raised with hormones and steroids. According to the USDA, chickens and pigs, they're not allowed to use steroids anyway. So I hear a lot of claims, and after I thought about it, a lot of chicken packaging claims this, but that's something they have to do anyway. They're not allowed to use steroids, so that means nothing. It means absolutely nothing on a package of chicken or pork. So I was kind of drawn in by that, thinking, oh wow, that means they're taking some extra steps. Not really. They're only doing what they're supposed to do. All right. It also doesn't speak to other chemicals that can be used, and the USDA named some, and they were just gosh awful long names, so I didn't write them down. But there are other chemicals that have a similar effect that can be used on pigs, chickens, even cattle, that this does not exclude. So it made me think, does that really have a whole lot of meaning if they can get around it by using a different type of chemical? All right, this is a big one for me because I thought how important it was in lunch meats and packaged meats like hot dogs and things like that, that it say no nitrites or nitrates. And that has to do with the way that that is preserved so that it can sit on the shelf for a time and not spoil. And this got really complicated. This has to do with the actual use of a synthetic chemical to maintain that meat. So that's what this means. But there are some combinations of things like concentrated onion and celery juices that can be used that are also not good for us. So I went back and looked at some meats that I consume. One in particular is a Polish sausage that I really like, and sure enough, in the ingredients was the celery. So this has a lot to do with how the meat is broken down by this chemical. It's not it's a negative thing. So I don't know. I guess it made me think twice about any of these things, and does that really mean that the meat is actually more healthy? I'm not sure that it does. That's just something you have to decide for yourself. All right, all natural means absolutely nothing. There is no definition of it. The USDA does not recognize it in any way. So people put that on there to give you a false sense that they've taken some kind of extra step. It means nothing. All right, cage-free really means nothing. So initially, when we started on this journey several years ago, I made sure the eggs we bought said it cage-free, because I thought, man, that means they're out in the pasture, they're living their best life. Not really. Cage-free does not have much of an indication of anything. It is not defined, and it does not mean that they have any access to the outdoors whatsoever. So it doesn't mean a whole lot. Now, free range or free roaming are terms that are also used. And while they may have meaning to that farmer, they're really not defined by the USDA. So it's not regulated by anybody. So I could put that on my package, but no one is ensuring that I'm following those guidelines. So just be aware of that. Doesn't mean they're not doing it. It just means that, and just be aware that no one is policing that or making sure that it's going on. All right, pasture raised. I didn't have that one up here. Also has no legal meanings. Now, you can get products, again, like the first one, that are certified by a third party. And so I've become a little more aware of what that looks like on the label, and that is someone is actually ensuring that those things are going on. Because pasture raised, when it comes to chicken, means that they're actually outside, getting out access to outdoors. And that's important for a chicken because that's their normal life, right? They're outside pecking the ground, digging up bugs, whatever. That's what makes chickens happy. Just know that there are some third-party certifications that go along with that, but just simply having that on the package doesn't mean anything without those third-party certifications. Now, one thing that we can really rely on, and it's written the smallest here, is organic. If someone is certified organic, that means something. That carries some weight. There are some very strict guidelines that go along with that. To be certified in relation to meats, it means that they have a strict process that they've gone through and they've been inspected. They cannot use any types of hormones and antibiotics and other chemicals. It also means that they were fed the proper diet for that animal, and that they're looking at where they live, and just all kinds of things go into that certification. So this one, if it says certified organic, actually does mean something. So just be aware of all these different labels that can trip us up. Now, I wanted to wind up this video by talking to you guys about where we've started getting our meat for probably the last year or so. and give you some, some suggestions for that. So first and foremost, if you can find a local farmer and you can make a relationship with them, you can go and a lot of times tour and see where the animals are actually raised and talk to them about what kind of medications they're giving them and just ask all kinds of questions. And you're supporting your local economy as well. So to me, that is your best source. Now in our area, we do have a local farmer. They supply meat to a lot of places, so they're not always well stocked, but their meat is wonderful. So we try to buy from them anytime we can. So when that's not available, then I go to Butcher Box. Now Butcher Box is a co-op. It is a company that sources small farms. So there's a lot of farms in this co-op that supply the meat, and the meat is really, really good. It can be shipped directly to your home. It's super convenient. So it is a great alternative if you can't source things locally. So I do that because of having difficulty having enough choice to source locally in my area. There's also some individual farms, and I was going to give you an example of Five Marys. It's a ranch in California, and that's an individual farm that will also ship directly to your home. So they have a large ranch, all kinds of beef, sheep, chicken, all kinds of products that they grow and will ship as well. So fortunately, that has become a big industry. So if you just search, you will probably be able to come across a good company. Just make sure you're looking at all their practices and that they're very open to disclosing those. If they are doing the right thing, they're not going to care to tell you that. So really do your homework. If you want to source with a local farmer, that's great. Ask questions. It's okay to care about where your food comes from. I think sometimes we're intimidated, or we just go to Walmart, Kroger, wherever, whatever grocery store, and the food's right there. We don't see the people behind that. And it's really a very important thing that we are sourcing good, healthy meat. It is responsible for a world of medical issues if we're just eating a standard American diet and not being mindful of that. So if you have a grocery budget and you're wanting to know where to make the most impact on your health, this is it. Make sure that you're getting your meat from a good, reliable source. So I know this video was a little bit of a deep dive, and it was a little bit maybe lengthy, but it's so important that we not get tripped up in this area. So if you liked it, I hope you'll subscribe and you'll come back and check out some more videos, and I'll talk to you next time.